Zodiac Man. I didn't know what I was going to say when I was coming down here. I knew I was coming down here for a little while now, but I didn't know exactly what I was going to say or anything. And I had a thought, and so while I was on the plane, I got on the plane this morning in Seattle, and I don't know, maybe they might need a little bit more light to write. And so we're on the plane getting ready to fly down here, and so they told us that there was a leak, hydraulic leak, and so it's going to be a few minutes. Then to find out that, well, this is really big, so we're going to have to put you guys on a new plane. And I just thank God, that it was discovered, And so the flight was an hour delayed. And so while I was there waiting and just trying to figure out, God, what am I going to say when I get down there? What am I going to... And I go through this often because sometimes I don't know what I'm going to say till I actually get up here. And so the thought Zodiac Man came before me. And then all at once I saw this picture of a man, and I'm going to give you these handouts. Maybe Bernie will help me pass these out. And I saw this picture of this man come before me, and the different things there. And I said, oh, that's it. So I started writing down really fast and drew my little stick man. And but that's better than a stick man there. Had to trace something to do that. And so I'm not an artist, but I want to just deal with some things on that tonight. And, oh no, there's more. You're welcome. And, we're going to just deal with some things here, and maybe it'll help you. I think it will help you. And, first of all, the word zodiac, it means the imaginary belt in the universe that the path of the sun follows through the 12 divisions of the heavens that are called constellations. Each is represented by a symbol. And I want to emphasize the word imaginary. An imaginary belt in the universe that the path of the sun follows through the 12 divisions of the heavens called the constellations. Each is represented by a symbol. Now, imaginary or imagination. How do we get imagination? That comes from thought, belief systems, or maybe feelings rise up or whatever that produces imaginations or images within our minds. And out of that imagination, we tend to project outside of ourselves what we have seen within our mind. And what we have seen within our mind becomes our reality. Amen? Yes. So it starts there in our mind, and then it's projected outside of our mind, and it becomes our reality. However, when it becomes our reality in this dimension, it is subject to the law of time. Now, that's a big one there. Because we're all subject to this law of time in some level. Although we have had all these spiritual experiences and encounters with God and spirit and angels and all of this, but we're yet subject to the realm of time. Now, what is time? Time is every moment that has existed and every moment that will exist. Okay. And in this phase or in this period of time, that's where our reality is created. But in that reality that we created from our imagination, there's all kinds of frustrations and hell. Amen. Positive and negative. On the positive side, the things that you have imagined and that you want, that you have brought from your imagination to materialize on this dimension here, we become frustrated because they don't happen when we want them to happen. It don't happen fast enough because of this law of time that we have been subjected to, and this law of time that we tend to just follow after. And on the negative side, negative thinking, fear and unbelief produces these images, And these images become real and begin to manifest in our body, in our mind, in our families, in our finances, or whatever. And that also causes frustration because we find ourselves trying to get out of this cycle that we've created and only to just go deeper and deeper many times. However, later on, I'm going to talk about breaking this illusion of time. Because I believe that even though the heavens declare certain things about your life, it can be changed. But you must know how to break the illusion of time to change it. We have illustrations in the Bible where there were people, for example, Abraham. Before he was called Abraham, he was called Abram. And he was of Chaldea, Ur of the Chaldeans. Ur means the place of light or enlightenment. Chaldea means astrologers, land of astrologers. So Abram was a master astrologer among these enlightened people. And he read the stars correctly that said that him and his wife Sarai would not have any children, that they were not destined to have any. However, because of his faith, and because he was able to transcend the realm of time, being 100 years old, his body considered dead, and his wife barren all of her life, and no way that she was going to have any children in the natural, in this reality they had created, this realm of time. But they tapped into spirit. And when they tapped into spirit, they received a name change. Abram became Abraham. Sarai became Sarah. Okay, they took on the H in the name of God as the YHWH. They took on part of the name of God, the masculine and feminine side of God. And out of that experience, what the stars had destined for them, it was changed because their names were changed. See, when you break through the realm of time by tapping into spirit, your name or your nature is changed. And when that is changed, your destiny, your fate changes. And so you have a chance to write your own history. And so we thank God for what the heavens declare and all of that, but we want to go within, and I want to talk more about inner space instead of outer space. Okay? Now, Genesis 1, and I always use the Bible for my basis of teaching because that's the main book for me, you know. And Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 says, "In the beginnings, God created the heavens and the earth." And it goes on, says that the earth was without form, or became without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Okay? Darkness upon the consciousness of man. And the Spirit of God says, "Let there be light." And also the Spirit of God hovered over the waters, brooded over the waters. And out of that darkness of consciousness, lack of understanding, ignorance, and spiritual emptiness, light and enlightenment came. And later on, it was called Adam. Okay? And, but verse 14 in that same chapter says that God says, "Let the sun, the moon, and the stars be for signs and for seasons, for days and for years." And he says that the sun and the moon were to be the governors of the day and the night. They were to rule the day and the night. Now, in the literal sense, we see that demonstrated. It's been demonstrated ever since there's been the sun. The sun has ruled over the day. The moon has ruled over the night. And there are the constellations, and there are the stars, and that whole order of arrangement that has controlled the affairs of men. Those that have not been enlightened to know that they can change what the stars say. Everybody's following me? Okay? Now, as I said, that I'm not going to so much as talk about outer space, but I want to talk about inner space. So we have the sun, the moon, and the stars. Sun represents your spirit. Moon, reflected light, represents your soul. What is the soul? It's the mind, the will, emotion, intellect, and the imagination. Okay? And then the constellations represents your physical body. As it is above, so it is below. Now, the sun moves through each zodiac sign house and stays in it for about 30 days. Okay? 30 in Hebrew thinking is a number that speaks of maturity, fullness. And so as we see the sun moving throughout its celestial cycle, through the different sign houses, coming to bring enlightenment in every sign for 30 days, what does that say to you and I if you are the Zodiac Man? And when I speak of man, I'm not speaking of as in gender, okay? You are the Zodiac Man, whether you're male or female. And so what God is saying, and what I feel Spirit is saying to me, is that God seeks to bring to maturity every level of your existence. And I want to talk, touch on briefly these 12 levels as the 12 constellations of stars, these 12 levels I'm going to talk about, and also the 7 planets of the ancients that ruled these 7 levels of your being. And first of all, as you look at your chart here, looking on the left side, we see Sun, Moon, Mars, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn. Now, I'm not going to go in the exact order that the planets are laid out in the heavens, but we see these 7 things here. And those of us that understand a little bit about metaphysics and all of that, we realize that this is like the 7 chakras, or the 7 spinning wheels of energy within man. Or in Hebrew thinking and Christian thinking, we will call it the 7 spirits of God. Okay? Medically speaking, I guess it's the endocrine system. All right, now we start at the top here, and we see that sun comes in through the crown chakra within man, bringing intelligence and enlightenment because of the sun. Speaking of light. And we go to the second level here, and we come right to the center of the forehead, which is the pineal gland or pineal gland, reflected light, the moon. This gland in the body is actually controlled by the sunlight that comes in through the eye. It regulates your sleep. Matter of fact, scientists also tell us that this gland also determines how fast you age. After a person reaches about 30 years of age, this gland somehow becomes calcified and is no longer vibrating or operating the way that it should. And so, therefore, the aging process is sped up. The body ages and you get tired and everything starts to slow down because this gland happens to be the orchestra of the whole body. Okay, directing everything. Making sure that everything works in harmony and in balance. And that's where Spirit is bringing us to, the place of harmony and balance. However, as the sun comes into the crown chakra and the light is reflected through the pineal gland, your sleep is regulated. And when I speak of sleep, I'm speaking of you begin to experience that unconscious state. Now, when I speak of unconscious state, I'm not talking about a coma or out not knowing anything. But you are no longer operating out of conscious mind that's led by what you see, hear, touch, taste, or smell. But you tapped into another level now, okay, that unconscious state, where you're not moved by emotions, you're not moved by circumstance, but there's something else that's coming forth. And when you come into that state of being, you're transformed. Your life is also transformed. Your physical body begin to change because you're no longer being dictated by what your bodies say that you feel. Okay? Because you're no longer walking after feeling, but you're walking after truth. You're no longer operating in the realm of this holographic image that we have created. False reality, illusion. But now you are experiencing truth. All right. And as we go on down, then there is Mars here at the throat chakra or the thyroid. And that speaks of the force. From the negative side, it can speak of something, aggression. But from the positive side, that speaks of communication, the power to speak your reality into existence. And now when you speak your reality into existence, it is no longer based on what the five senses says. It is no longer based on what mass consciousness has taught us. It is no longer based on the illusion that's around us. But all of this is coming out of the subconscious mind or spirit, the enlightened mind. Okay? And as we go on down, then we come to Venus, the heart chakra. Okay, where there's love and where there's relationship, where there's emotions, where things are dealt with on a very deep level. That includes negative things that we have stuffed away and pushed away and refused to look at and don't want to remember, don't want to deal with, just bypass it. But at this experience here, all of those things are brought to the surface and they are reconciled. There's no judgment, there's no condemnation, but there's love. And as the Bible teaches us, that love covers a multitude of faults and sin. So this is where love is activated within you. And it covers all of those that have hurt you, all of those negative things that were sent your way throughout your life. You're able to regress back to infancy even before you were born. If there are negative things or negative emotions spoken or felt about you or sent toward you or rejection or whatever, all of that is swallowed up in that, and because you're being birthed into something new. And then we move down to the solar plexus, and then there's Mercury that deals with desires and a lot of the basic desires of humanity, flesh, and all of those things, lust, whatever it could be, you know. Now these things are dealt with also on a different level, and messages or messengers comes forth and release out of us to deal with those things. So we're no longer condemned, but we are reconciled. We're brought into harmony now. And as Jesus, Yeshua taught, out of your belly will flow rivers of living water. So at this point, the dams and the things that have held back the flow of spirit and life and all of the wonderful things that God has for us, the dams are broken. And now there is that flow. And that flow is cleansing. It is washing. It is purging. It is driving away. All the stagnation is gone. And there's momentum that's coming forth out of you. Because out of your innermost being, your belly, flows this river of living water. And also when you speak, from this level now, it is no longer as you spoke from the Martian experience, but it is coming up through love. Your words are seasoned. They are filled with love. Okay, and we move on down to Jupiter, the reigns, right in here. Okay, this experience. Now, the word Jupiter speaks of father, or the father reign he was called, you know. So it speaks of fatherhood. This area here. So now you are able to reproduce. And what you bring forth is not of the false image anymore, but now is truth. What you bring forth is truth. Those lives that you touch, they come into truth. And truth makes free. First of all, it frees you. And you realize that you are responsible. Fatherhood, you are accountable. You are a nurturer. You are one that directs, one that instructs. And then we go on down to Saturn, that speaks of the hidden things, secret things, creativity, power of life and death. But we choose life. 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 And so the 7 planets here in the Zodiac Man, bringing him into complete balance. Now, from the realm of time, this is the way that we will look at the Zodiac Man. At birth, the Zodiac Man is as pure as a lamb, filled with innocence, and can easily be led. Aries. That's at birth. You love to see these little babies. You just want to hold them. But you know what? They don't stay babies. They grow up. And sometimes we don't like what they grow up to be. Sometimes we don't like what we grew up to be. But all that's being reconciled. Now, as this child becomes older, he becomes stronger. Strong as an ox. Taurus, the bull. Easily enraged and can become stubborn. This is our progression from the realm of time. Third stage. When he comes to the place of puberty, he seems to develop a split personality. How many remember that? Some of you probably got teenagers or grandchildren that are teenagers, and you woke up one morning and it seems like there's a stranger in my house. I don't know where he came from, I don't know where she came from, but I want them to get out right away. You want something to happen. And so that's the Gemini experience, where there's this for the twins, and where all these choices and there's that self-discovery that's taking place within that individual, and they don't know how to deal with all of the things that's going on there. I think somebody there knows what I'm talking about. You know, there's all that, and so you know, there's hope for you. We're gonna get to the other side, and so. But then you move on to the 4th stage, and this person begins to come into adulthood, young man or young woman. This brings about a level of maturity and sexual identity. The controls and the drives of the physical can sometimes hold that person in the clutches as a crab. And many people never move beyond this stage. They grow up in age, but they're still there at this level. Let me back up a bit. Matter of fact, there are some that never grow beyond Aries. They're naive all their life. Innocence is good, but you know what? We need experience. That's the whole purpose for us coming to this planet, being subjected to the vanity and all this world that we see around us, so that we could experience, so that we could properly develop and evolve into who we really are. Now, the 5th stage. If not careful, the desires of the lower self may appear as strong as a lion. And you know what? It will take the strength and the power of a lion to overcome. That's Leo. So that's the stage where you learn to overcome. 6. When errors or things that are called sin is realized, you begin to become morally conscious, for lack of a better word, and realize that there is a such thing as karma. And if those things are not repented of And the word repent means you change your way of thinking. All of the negativity that you have allowed to go out of you, you somehow retract that and you transmute that into something positive. How do we do that? By doing just the opposite. Okay? And so, however, if it is not repented of, okay. Sorry. Yeah. If it is repented of, I should say, he is restored as a virgin. That's Virgo. And the illusion of the past is broken. Now, the seventh stage, if it is not repented of and it is increased, it must be weighed in the scales of Libra. And I think we've all been there where we have heard or sensed the words, Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. You have been weighed in the scales and you're found deficient. And so, but we know one that came, Jesus, Yeshua. If it is repented of, I should say, he is restored as a virgin. That's Virgo. And the illusion of the past is broken. Now, the seventh stage, if it is not repented of and it is increased, it must be weighed in the scales of Libra. And I think we've all been there where we have heard or sensed the words, Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. You have been weighed in the scales and you're found deficient. And so, but we know one that came, Jesus, Yeshua, which was a Libra, actually, not a Capricorn. And we'll talk about that. And so, and which is a Libra. And so he made up the difference. He said, my grace is sufficient for you, is more than enough. Justice, perfect balance of the natural and the spiritual plane. However, if the sin is continued on, the errors are increased, and the errors or negative things outweighs that which is right, you must be turned over to the scorpion, the viper. But if the errors are repented of, change, and you begin to do the opposite, you're given the wings of the eagle to soar above the material plane. In the constellation of Scorpio, there's the scorpion and the eagle. At your best, you can be the golden eagle. At your worst, you can be the scorpion. Okay. The name stage. Then the man or the person with the changed heart will be shot forth with the speed of an arrow, the arrow from Sagittarius, the arrow of deliverance, the arrow that hits the target, that hits the mark. This speaks of your life coming into such a balance where you're no longer missing the mark. Actually, that's what sin means. When you read in the Bible, sin, it only means to miss the mark, that you didn't hit the bullseye. So at this level, you learn how to hit the mark. Not that you're consciously thinking, is this right, is this wrong, is this... But your life, your speech, your action, your thought brings you into that experience because it's been changed. The 10th level, again, mankind experiences the purity through the power of transformation. He's as a kid again, the goat of Capricornus. You've been brought out from the waters of mass consciousness and humanity that's bound with this illusion. And now you transform into that goat, that kid, something that's pure. Number 11, speaks of refreshing waters being poured upon the Zodiac Man from the celestial urn. This is the Aquarian experience, where waters from on high, not so much as out there in the sky, but the higher places of your consciousness, is poured out upon you. Your mind is cleansed. At this level, there's no longer the struggle and the duality that you experienced at Gemini of wondering what to do and, what not to do. There's no longer the confusion there. But now the waters of Aquarius have cleansed your mind. There's clarity there. There's direction there. There's understanding. And there's a sense of purity. And last of all, the 12th one, Pisces. The waters of life now provide the atmosphere for mankind to succeed and multiply as the fishes. You start in the water, you end in the water. Jesus says, marvel not, you must be born again and again and again. Okay. That's the birthing of the waters of life from within. This is a birthing on a totally new consciousness now. Okay. This is way beyond religion when you're sprinkled when you're a baby, or if you go up when you're 12 years old or 13 or bar mitzvah or whatever, or if you go to some altar in some evangelistic services, goes way beyond that. This is another birthing on a totally different plane, a new you that's emerging, that's coming forth. Now, I just told you those 12 stages that are in the realm of time. I'm going to want to break the time barrier. Yay! Okay, yes. We want to do that. Now, there's a scripture, the wisest man that lived is called King Solomon. In the book of Ecclesiastes, which means the preacher, this guy was, he was something else. He was a great mystic, great theologian, if you will, or prophet. And he said this in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. He says that there is a time and season for everything under the heavens. But in verse 11, he says this. He, speaking of God, the Great Spirit, our Father, our Mother, has made everything beautiful in its time. So while we are in this realm of time and experiencing all of these limitations, we must learn to see the beauty in every situation. As you learn to see the beauty, call the good out of every situation, you will see it change. There's another one of my favorite scriptures in Romans that says that Abraham called those things that were not as though they were. That means using the power of communication, this throat chakra, and coming from your belly here, speaking forth those things into existence, creating your reality by what you speak, because the power of life and death is in your tongue, is what you speak. And you can only speak about what you think about. So if your thinking is kind of fuzzy and, cluttered and confused and stuff, guess what's going to come out of your mouth? That. And when it comes out of your mouth, that power, there are forces, energies that's going to create what you just spoke and make it become your reality. Okay? However, if you're thinking with clarity and understanding who you are and no longer subject to this realm of time, and you're speaking from that dimension, there are also energies, forces that's going to take what you said and create it and make that become your reality. And that's the real thing. Okay? Now, so he says he had made everything beautiful in his time. So I must learn to see beauty even in physical problems. I must learn to see beauty even in financial distress. I must learn to see beauty even when I'm feeling yucky and like I'm so out of balance, not even in tune to spirit, don't know anything about spirit, or God. I must learn to see beauty when I don't feel like relating to relatives, friends, husband, wife, children, whatever, I must find some beauty in that. I learned that lesson many years ago as I was a missionary in northern Canada, way up in the Hudson Bay. I was not prepared for that mission. Had no intentions on being up there in the dead of winter. 60 below weather, 100 below wind chill factor, only with a jacket and some leather boots. And the natives up there were generous enough to loan me an Eskimo Parker and mutclucks and different things as we travel on toboggans and all kinds of things. And I saw so much snow for several months, many months. I was up there for maybe 6 months. And they told me that you're going to become bushed. And I said, what is that? That means you're going to go out of your mind. You're going to see so much snow. I said, oh no, And so, me not used to seeing all of that snow. I think after about the second month, I'm sitting there at the window looking like this. Get me out of here, God. What did I do to deserve this? This is hell. And it's cold. And while I was sitting there complaining about how I wanted to be in Mexico, because that's where I was supposed to have been, I had been invited to Mexico. And I saw the snowflakes for the very first time. I actually looked at them, and they were so beautiful. And that was the very first time I actually noticed myself that they all had a different shape. And I sat there watching the snow fall continuously. And it was so beautiful. And my whole experience, the rest of the months I was there, became so beautiful. I was able to accomplish my goal and just had a great time. And he had made everything beautiful in his time. And the next part of the verse says, he has set eternity within their hearts. So here we have the realm of time, which is limitations. And then we have eternity that exists before time, exists at the end of time, and exists parallel to time. Now, how do I get out of my box of time when there's eternity all around me and eternity even within my heart? That's where it's at. Eternity is within you. To unlock the door to eternity, one of the ways that I find is through one of the things that you guys do here, sound therapy. Breaking the sound barriers within. Now, that can be done through many ways. Gary and Verna's singing, playing, the tuning forks that you guys use, and all of the other things, as we were singing earlier, our names and singing into one another. All of that's a part of it. Now, we call it also worship. What we did earlier in the meeting tonight is we sat here and just began to utter things from our innermost being, and the unknown languages began to flow out of us as we begin to sing. See, what happens in that experience that the Bible calls worship is you transcend time. Your physical body is still stuck here, but you look at your clock, you're watching. I can't believe I sat there an hour. I thought it was only 5 minutes. I can't believe it was, 2 hours. I thought it was only a half hour. It's because you have broken through that barrier. You've had a taste of that. And so sound therapy, worship, speaking, verbalizing, expressing your love for spirit, becoming one with spirit and allowing this experience to become very personal to you, breaks that time barrier and brings you into the realm of eternity. Now, in that realm of eternity, everything that you think you need, want, and desire becomes. It becomes. Not will be, but it becomes. Because in that realm of eternity, everything is. Okay, now I just want to walk you through these 12 steps again, but from the other side of it, from the realm of no limitation, where we've broken through the imagination of time, and where the whole experience is taking place within you. Okay. Step number 1, Aries, the head. When the sun is in Aries, what is happening to me? Maybe there are things that I need to deal with in my mind. Maybe there's things in my thinking that needs to be changed, my belief system. Maybe I am overanalyzing things. I'm too logical. I'm too critical. Maybe I need to tap into divine mind, or as we call it, the mind of Christ. Okay. Step 1, tapping into the mind of Christ. There's a scripture in the book of Philippians that says, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus." So when divine mind has a place in your life and you're no longer thinking your own thoughts, then you're no longer doing your own things. Okay? Number 2, when the sun is in Taurus, which speaks of the wheel and sometimes stubbornness, the neck that becomes stiff. Some of you wake up in the morning time and you wonder why your neck is stiff. It's because you're being stubborn in some area. Spirit is trying to get you to realize that you need to be a little bit more flexible, and so it manifests in your neck here, and so, but what is the opposite of that? Humility. Humility. So out of that divine mind is going to come humility. That's what it says in Philippians. It says that Christ, being in the form of God, humbled himself to become a servant. So divine mind brings forth humility, no longer your will. Now we go on to the 3rd stage of Gemini, duality and of choices and double-mindedness. We exchange that for agreement. We're no longer controversial, contrary, but we agree. Agree. Everybody say agree. Yes. And so, Jesus taught this. Matthew 5, he says, agree with the things that are unjust to you quickly. Or King James says, agree with the adversary quickly when you are in the way, or else you're going to be cast into a mental prison, and you're going to be tormented by the negative energies and the negative thoughts and all of these things. So you learn to agree. Now, what does the word agree means? It means to have a good and healthy attitude toward what you're facing. Not that you necessarily approve of it, but you can have a good and healthy attitude about what you're experiencing. Now, the 4th stage, Cancer. You come to this level, and there's still some of that duality because there's that idea of letting go and wanting to hold on. But the opposite side of that, when you break through the time barrier and realize eternity, you realize that nothing matters. Nothing matters. You can let go. Let go on every level. Okay? You have no concern for matter, the material plane. You can let go. Now, the 5th stage, Leo. Relationships, families, those things that are close to the heart, those things that really can get on your nerves and cause you to have a bad day at a blink of an eye. But the opposite side of that is oneness. 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 Realizing you're not separate from what's going on outside of you in that sense. And many times the things that we see that we don't like is because we're seeing what's within us. So you come to a place of oneness with that situation. Now, the sixth stage, Virgo, also speaks of desires and the things of the solar plexus, or say in the natural, the things that you digest, the things that you take in. Okay. We go through life and sometimes we take a lot of things in, but they don't all digest. They stay there, like sometimes the food that you ate a day or so ago and is still somehow causing you to bloat, and the acids and all of this stuff that's going on, and it just did not agree with you, you know? And so, but the opposite side of that, you must learn to transmute everything that is in disagreement with you, everything that would appear as evil, into good. So that's the power of transmutation that comes forth in Virgo. And out of that experience, to the pure, all things are pure. Okay. The seventh level, Libra, speaks of strengths and weaknesses. Strengths and weaknesses. Sometimes we think of areas that we're strong in. Then we think of areas where we're weak in. And we're confused and we think, I'm weak. Or sometimes arrogantly we think that we're strong. It is okay to experience weakness. It is okay to be weak. A great man once said, when I'm weak, then I am strong. And it's okay also to experience strength and to know that you're strong. Okay. The eighth level, Scorpio. Creativity. Life and death issues. When you break through the realm of time, you realize the things within you that need to live, and the things that you need to allow to die. Now we know in reality there is no death. On the physical plane, on the spiritual plane, there is no death. There's just a change. Okay? So there are things that are within you from, I guess you can say from the human perspective, that can be positive or good. Those things need to live. You need to nourish those things. You need to stir those things up within you. But also, there are things that maybe need to die or to be transformed there. And so at that level, you know what to do. You know the things that you need to transform. Okay, at the ninth level, Sagittarius, here we go. It comes to the calves here. And that's the power of struggling. We all experience that. We struggle, you know, and we go through this, sometimes power trips, ego trips, all of these things, you know. And, but the opposite side of that is submission. Submission. See, when you break through the realm of time, it's easy to submit. You're no longer anxious. As long as you're in the realm of time and operating out of that, you're anxious. You're fidgety, you're nervous, you know. You're biting your fingernails, you know. But when you learn to submit to universal will, to God, to spirit, you know that everything's all right, even though your outer dimension may be saying just the opposite. Your 10th level, Capricorn, the knees, flexibility. Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be broken. So that's the part of you that can bend. And it's okay to bend. Because when you're flexible, nothing can really break you. Nothing will be able to break your spirit. But if you're strong within your own self, within that ego, you'll be broken again and again until you become pliable and flexible. The 11th stage, Aquarius, the calves of the legs. This also speaks of individuality. Okay? This is the place where you no longer need something or someone outside of you to validate you. You know who you are. You enjoy being you. No one else can be you like you. And you don't want to be anyone else. 12th stage, Pisces, foundation. When the sun is in Pisces, maybe there are some foundational things that need to be dealt with. Maybe there are some basic things that we've looked over. This speaks of being planted, stable. Only when we're planted and stable and have the proper foundation can we become this Zodiac man or Zodiac person, where the sun of righteousness moves throughout our being. Malachi chapter 4, it says, the sun of righteousness will arise with healing in his wings. So when the sun of righteousness, the Christ within you, is allowed to rise and to go throughout these 12 stages of your being, guess what happens? Healing takes place on the physical level, emotional level, spiritual, mental, financial, every level of your existence. This is why Jesus oftentimes asks the people, do you want to be made whole? Spirit, soul, and body. There was a woman that had an incurable disease, had suffered for 12 years, like the 12 zodiac signs. She'd gone through these stages of suffering where it appeared as though the sun had not appeared in her sign house at all. She heard about Yeshua, Jesus, and she said within herself, after she had spent all of her money on all of the physicians, she'd gone to all the conventions, she had seen all the metaphysicians, all the psychics, all the readers, all of the great people, and she had no more money, no more health. She was bleeding constantly. She had been ostracized from the community, considered unclean because of her disease. But she heard about Yeshua. And she says, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I know I can be made whole. Now, the hem of the garment, Hebrew word tzitzit. When Malachi spoke 400 years before Christ came in Malachi 4, he says that he will come with healing in his wings. It is the word tzitzit, which means a sign that Yeshua, Jesus, was the Messiah, that someone would be able to touch the fringes of his garment and that healing would flow out of it into them. And so this woman said, if I can touch the hem of his garment, I know I'll be made whole. So she pressed her way through the crowd of thoughts and unbelief and all of those things that were hindering her from him, religion and all of that. And she grabbed a hold of the hem of his garment, the tzitzit, and immediately virtue, power came out of him into her, and she was immediately made whole. That woman represents the planet, represents you. It represents a body of believer where the Son of Righteousness, Yeshua, is shining upon, and he's making us whole. We're in the time of great planetary transformation. Healing is taking place. Now, on the fourth day of creation in the book of Genesis, the sun, the moon, and the stars appeared. When Malachi prophesied about the coming of this Son of Righteousness, everyone knew that it had to be on the fourth day. Speaking of 4,000-year period from the time of Genesis. So Jesus, Yeshua, came at that time as the Son of Righteousness, symbolic of the sun out there that goes through the 12 sign houses. Now, in John chapter 14, he said, in my Father's house, everybody point at yourself. In my Father's house are many what? mansions. And what are these sign houses called? Mansions. Yes. In my Father's house are many mansions. There's 12 of them. And he says, if it were not true, I wouldn't tell you this. And he says, I'm going to go away into this invisible realm, and I'm going to prepare a place for you. And I'm going to come again, and I'm going to receive you unto myself, that where I am, there will you be also. So we're being brought to the awareness of the I am that's within us. As Christ, the Son of Righteousness, passed through these 12 sign houses, these 12 stages of our being, is to bring us into complete realization, not just in word, not just because we read it or heard a tape or we've been to so many seminars or conferences, but now it becomes an experience. I am that I am, the house of God. Okay. Now, I want you just to sit there for a moment, and if you can, maybe put your paper on the floor and your charts. Okay. Now I'm just going to kind of walk you through something here. Okay. All right. Okay, just take a deep breath, everyone. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Okay. Again. One more. Okay. I want you to visualize this experience here. I want you to see the sun, this bright glowing ball of energy. Bright yellow sun, so bright, so beautiful that you can hardly look at it, and it's becoming brighter and brighter. Now I want you to see this sun above you, directly above you. And I want you to see the rays of this sun coming in through your crown chakra, top of your head, coming right into your being. This sun is the sun of righteousness. In the sign house, the mansion of Aries, the head. Now I want you to see this sun moving right down your head, through your forehead, pineal gland, these rays burning right through, down into your throat chakra, your neck. The sun is now in the house of Taurus. Humility. Humility. The sun is moving now down to your arms. The rays, you can feel them on your arm. You are in agreement. You have a good and healthy attitude toward every opposition that comes your way. You see it for what it is. Nothing is working against you. Everything is working for you. And the twins become one. Now the sun is moving into your upper chest, in the house of Cancer. You can let go. Resentment, fears, hurt, disappointments, all of those things you can let go. Nothing really matters. Nothing really matters. As the Sun of Righteousness fills your chest, moving down into your heart on fire, the light of the sun, bursting forth with love as it moves into the house of Leo. This love brings you into oneness of being with all of your bodies and everything around you. All of those things that you are related to. The light dispels all of the darkness. Now the sun moves down to your solar plexus, into the house of Virgo. Everything that would be considered negative is transmuted into that which is good. Purity, purity, purity is manifesting out of your being. Now the sun has moved on down to the house of Libra, just below your belly button. In this experience, everything's okay. You find complete balance. Your life is balanced. Your body is balanced. Every part about you is balanced. The sun has now moved on down into the house of Scorpio, your genital area, filled with light, creativity. This light is life. This light is life. And everything that you bring forth is life. I want you to also visualize an eagle soaring into the sun. That eagle is you, soaring into the heights of spirit. The sun has now moved down to your thighs, to the house of Sagittarius. This speaks of submission. No more struggling. Only submission. Submission to universal will. Submission to the things I don't understand. Submission to all of the questions. The sun has now moved down to your knees, Capricornus. I am flexible. Even as the knee bends, I am able to bend. I am flexible. Things don't have to always go my way. The sun has moved now to the house of Aquarius, the calves of your legs. Speaking of your individuality, even as your legs are separate, you need no one to validate you or your experience. It is personal. You know who you are. You are the I am. The sun has now filled your entire being from the top of your head to your feet, especially your feet. The light of the sun is all around you. You can feel the heat on your feet from this sun, the sun of righteousness. And the feet speaks of stability. You are planted. You're stable. You're not movable. You're like the tree planted by the rivers of water. When the storms of life come, you cannot be uprooted. You may bend, but you will not be broken. Your entire being is filled with light because you are a light being. As the sun has passed through the 12 mansions, the 12 houses of your being, you know that you are the Father's house. You are filled with God, all that is good. Nothing but that which is good can come forth out of you. Since you're filled with light and the sun of righteousness, the healing properties are now activated at a higher level within your physical body. The healing properties are now activated at a higher level within your body. Every part of your body that might be diseased, sick, or have symptoms of that can now experience wholeness and healing. The sun of righteousness has risen within you with healing and wholeness. Give yourself permission to be healed and whole. See the sun focused on that particular part of your body that may be diseased or sick. See the rays of light burning every trace of it, transmuting it into health, energy, life, flowing to every part, every organ, every muscle, nerve, cell, atom, and wholeness. You are completing him on the emotional level. Every disappointment, hurt, rejection, fear, negative emotion is dissolved and consumed by the all-consuming fire of the sun. It has replaced love, joy, peace, righteousness. All your needs are met. The sun has provided for every level of your existence to be cared for. See the sun filling your entire being. The light of the sun surrounding you. The sun, you're in the center of the sun. Continue to hold that thought, seeing yourself in the center of the sun, but you're slowly fading. Soon there will be no more of you, only the light of the sun, that life-giving force. Now there's only the sun. As you experience the peace, you may slowly come back to yourself, realizing that you transcended time. You tapped into eternity. You're no longer controlled by the illusion of time, but you walk the Spirit, which is eternal. Deep breath. Slowly let it out. One more, please.
Can you feel the vibration of the earth? Welcome to heaven.
Come to the temple, it's a silver and gold, where you never die young, no, and you never grow old. Just come to the temple, it's a silver and gold, where you never die young, no, and you never grow old. Come to the temple, of silver and gold, where you never die young, no, and you never grow old. Just come to the temple of the Spirit. Just come to the temple of the Spirit. It's in the temple. And it's not Baptist, Pentecost to save the lost. It's you and me walking together in eternity. It's in the temple of silver and gold, where you never die young and you never grow old. So come to the temple of silver and gold, where you never die young and you never grow old. Just come to the temple of the Spirit. Just come to the temple of the Spirit. It's in the temple. Speak, Spirit, speak.